Welcome, everyone, to the Your Energy First podcast. I'm your host, Emily Marie, and it is such a pleasure to have you here today to co-create with you in this space and to talk about all things your energy. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It is so wonderful to have you here today. We are going to delve more into your intuition. We are going to talk about hearing your intuition and another avenue you can take to help you build trust with it. So we are going to start by taking a gentle breath in. This is your time to energetically co-create, receive, expand, whatever it is you need right now for your highest good. So we're just going to take a breath in and release. Why don't we do that more often? Doesn't it feel so good? One more breath in and release. Even having a few conscious breaths is energy work. Everything is energy work. Well, not everything, most things. So first thing we're going to talk about with your intuition is hearing energy. And hearing energy, or audibly perceiving energy, as the guides sweetly call it, looks a number of different ways. So remember that your energy is so utterly unique. No other energy like it exists anywhere. That is how unique you are. And that also means that your energetic skill set, that your intuition is going to be unique as well. And it might be an amalgamation, a combination of a variety of different energetic means, meaning hearing energy, seeing energy, knowing energy, and sensing energy. So when it comes to hearing energy, there's a couple of different ways this goes about. And one of those ways, and some of us are familiar with this, is when we hear our intuition loud and clear. It's like there's this voice inside our head that says, don't do that or do this, or gives us some other piece of information. I was on a plane one time from Seattle to San Francisco, and I was at the airport in Seattle, and I sat down at the bench in the whatever waiting area, and I sat next to this guy, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I am sitting on the plane. I was sitting in the window seat, and he came walking down the aisle, and he had the aisle seat in my same row, and there was nobody sitting in between us. And this was an early morning flight. And I was young. I was in my early 20s, and we started chatting and completely hit it off. And we ended up dating for a year. He was the first man that I dated that I fell in love with. It was mutual. I think we said I love you after like 4 weeks, and he lived in Vancouver, Canada. So we did long distance, and we're on that flight, and as clear as day, his voice comes through my head and says, this will be the first man you'll fall in love with, and it's not going to work out. Now, why would my intuition, my guides, your intuition is your guides, your spirit guides. Why would they tell me that? Well, I was raised Catholic, and the school I went to had some pretty, I'm going to say, teachers, rules, even people that I was growing up with who just had these really staunch beliefs of what life was supposed to look like. And they weren't wrong, right? I mean, it works for them. They're happy. But I was confused at the time. I was sort of at this point in my life where I was like, do I go down this road of being the good Catholic girl, or do I take more of a responsibility for my life and go down this other road? And what I mean by more of a responsibility for my life is really being in my power and, being truly a co-creative, powerful being in this lifetime, which has been a lot of work. I mean, you've got to undo a lot to get to that place. That's why I think there's this element to energy work that tells us, oh, you can transform like that. And it takes time. There's just so many layers. So give yourself time to go through whatever it is you're going through. So much time. It's okay to take all of the time that you need. Believe me, your spirit team, your higher self, I guarantee you they're not pressuring you. We may notice moments where they're like, come on, step it up, but that's very, very few and far between. So here I am on this flight and my spirit team comes through, and obviously it sort of sidetracks me from this conversation from this cute boy. And I remember thinking, whoa. And I did feel the sense of relief, right? It was almost like permission, kind of like, hey, let it go, have fun, enjoy him, enjoy his company, see what happens, and don't worry that it's not going to work out, because a lot of my friends were dating the men that they were going to be marrying, having kids with. And that's a lot to deal with at the age of 20, 21, right? I didn't know my ass from my elbow at that age. So it definitely gave me that permission, and it came through in that way for a reason. And I've had that happen to me a couple more times in my life. And that, was pretty significant. And I think sometimes we think, I'm sure some of you have similar stories. And I think that there is this expectation that unless our intuition comes through that loud and clear and gives us that kind of meaningful information, then we're not doing it right. And instead, our spirit team and our intuition comes through at times like that to really kind of help move us forward or to help keep us on track. I have a friend where her spirit team, her spirit guides, she was driving, and there was something that was going to be, it was like a train or something moving in front of her. And I forget exactly how this story went, but basically she goes, I physically felt something come through and push and slam on the brake. And she goes, and it prevented me from crashing. And that's another example of, again, we think it's something that's supposed to be profound. And they do come through in those ways to help keep us on track. And at the end of the day, we still have free will. It would be nice if they came through like that in a lot of ways. I think we can all agree it would save us some pain and some trouble. Oh gosh, but where's the fun in that? So they can only do that once in a blue moon, right? Because we do have free will. You and I have free will to make choices and make decisions. And that's one of the other things, once we kind of realize, okay, I'm in charge of my life. I'm at the helm here. I'm the powerful one. My spirit guides and my spirit team are a resource for me. In the last podcast episode, I had mentioned how I went through a period where I was asking my spirit team. It's not like I was utilizing them too much or working with them too much, because really the more you work with the light, the more it expands. I was, instead of being in my power and making decisions and asking for help or support or guidance, I was simply turning to them and asking the question. I wasn't even asking myself first or feeling into what I think or anything like that. So when we start to outsource our power to our spirit team, they will actually kind of stay back a little bit. They'll retract in a way. Of course, they are always going to be there supporting you and guiding you. But if we attempt to outsource our own power, then they are going to sort of say, hey, we're going to hold back a little bit until you figure out how amazing and powerful you are. So what's one of the ways we can be in our power and more aligned and receive this guidance, this audible guidance from our spirit team? So one of the ways is by practicing being in stillness with yourself, which is really presence. Stillness kind of sounds intimidating, right? Because we're going to get interrupted. Of course, that's life. Thoughts are going to come through our head. You're normal. Don't stress about that. And so really what we want to do is we want to pause. And what's really helped me come into the present moment, when you drop into presence, is when you are aligned with your higher self. You're aligned with your soul path. You are aligned with your spirit team and your spirit guides in a way that's true for everyone, that's balanced for everyone. And of course, there's one way to do that, which is by acknowledging your inner light. It's a really good place to start. And another way is, if you can see energy, you can imagine an energetic brightness that's beaming from within you. It's actually coming from your inner light. That will give your mind somewhere to go, and it will establish a connection to all of those things. The other thing you can do is you can feel that vibrancy, that light. You can actually feel that vibrancy and that light from within you if you just think about it. And when you think about it, what you're doing is you're literally sending. It's like, imagine your thought is a fishing rod and you are casting that line with your thought. You're like, oh, I'm going to think about my inner light. And you cast the rod and the fishing line goes, and then it's like, oh, well, we know where we're going. We're going to this inner light. And then plunk, it hits your inner light and you are connected to it. You're always connected to it, but you're activated with it. So that is how you stand in your power, stand in your alignment. And it's also how you know you're only connected to your spirit team and spirit guides. So when it comes to hearing your intuition is going to be your main spirit guide. And what happens is all of your spirit guides kind of come together and they funnel, and they sort of get together all of this information, and then they kind of funnel it through your main guide or guides who sounds like you, who feels like you. That's why it's confusing. You're like, wait, was that me? Or was it my spirit guides? And they're like, well, yeah, same in this way in particular. So they kind of funnel through, and then they will give you that information. And that's why, like, you get a lot of ideas. You have a lot of thoughts. Think about the time you magically met someone special. It could have been a serendipitous friend or loved one or a pet that you're just so aligned with, right? All of these things that happen, you had the thought to go to the grocery store at that exact time, in that exact moment on that day. It was your thought. Or was it your guide saying, okay, it's time that Harry met Sally, so we're going to put this thought in Sally's head and put this thought in Harry's head, and then poof, they're going to meet, right? So that's what your spirit guides do. And then what happens is you have elements to your spirit team who are unique. They're unique energies. And they may come through and they may have a different tone of energy for you. They may present themselves differently to you. And when that happens, you may simply notice, it's like they're saying it's a gentle nudge. It's like, it's like a slight breeze comes across your face. It's so almost not noticeable. And what happens is this energy will repeat itself until it becomes known to you. And then it becomes to feel familiar. Now remember, that which is of the light is non-intrusive or non-invasive. So that's part of the reason why you and I feel like we take a long time to learn lessons sometimes, is because our spirit guides are not showing up. But could you imagine if we woke up in the morning and we just had like our spirit guides and our spirit team lined up in front of us with pads and notebooks and pens and papers, and they're like, okay, finally you're awake. We got ish to do, folk. You. Get up. We got lessons to learn. Here's your lessons. We're going to focus on 3 today. But stop and give me 10 burpees because you've been complaining about your flabby ass, right? I mean, that is one option. So aren't we glad that they're not intrusive and not invasive and they just let us figure it out on our own? It's better that way. Okay, so the different members of your spirit team will have different tones of energy. They're also going to have different symbols, different ways of showing up, and all of that's really good stuff. But today we're just focusing on the audible sound of energy and our intuition. The other thing that the guides are bringing up right now is how it's not obviously just our intuition and our spirit team that we're hearing, but it's actually other energies we can perceive, right? And we can hear. And things will come through, when something feels a little bit. The reason they say energy has a tone to it is because when an energy tone is of the light, you'll know. It won't feel, energy that's not of the light will feel scratchy. It will feel intrusive. It will oftentimes give you real information because it just wants your attention, but you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, I didn't ask. Or that felt kind of scratchy. Or that, gave me the bad zing, right? You get a good zing on your energy, you get a bad zing. What I mean by that is it's not quite the chills. It's not that thing that's on the tip of your tongue that I talked about in the last episode, but it's sort of that ping of like, something isn't quite right here. You're saying you're an angel, you're showing me wings, you're showing me light, but my energy is getting this zing that it's not right. And if anything like that ever happens, that's another universal law of energy, is that any energy has to show you who it truly is. So what you would say is, show me your light, show me your light, show me your light. And then eventually it would have no light to show you and it would fade off. Okay, that was another tangent. So some of the ways that you can hear let's say hear your spirit team, your intuition, or, a loved one who's crossed over. The other thing is I do say, spirit team is such a broad term. A loved one who's crossed over, who has healthy boundaries, who wants to visit you once in a while or often, or an animal that's crossed over, they can actually be in your spirit team. Now, your spirit guides, especially your main spirit guide, is going to be super close to you. It's going to be like right so close to you in your energetic system, you almost basically don't even notice them. Wow, what like an ungrateful job they have. Now that I think about it, I've never thought about that. How humble do you have to be a spirit guide? People barely know you're there. You're essentially, it's not like mutating in a bad way, but they're essentially having to blend into your energy to support you so that you don't really even know it's them, and they're fully aligned just with your highest good to help you on your path because they've been down this path before. Wow. Spirit guides are mad humble now that I think about it. Yeah. It's funny because I'm kind of presenting this to them and they're just sort of holding their energy there like, okay. They're not even saying like, yeah, we are humble or anything like that. They're just holding their energy. It's like, let's move on. So energy coming in as a tone, that's what you want to notice when our spirit guides, when our intuition talks to us, most often, not all the time, kind of comes through the back part of your head. Like I've mentioned before, it lands really quickly. It's like all of a sudden the information's just there. And a big part of hearing energy that's of the light is actually resembled to our knowing. It's almost like, where did that come from? How did that happen all of a sudden? Why do I know that? And the two kind of go hand in hand. So think about taking a moment of pause, like we were talking about earlier, coming back to that. As best you can, imagining a light within you or feeling a light within you gives you presence in your day, gives you that pause. If you're driving, do this with your eyes open at a stoplight. Breathe into your light. Breathe into a beam of light you see running within you. That will give you that pause, that will give you that clarity. And you could even say to your light, start by saying, I set the intention, I only connect with my intuition, or I set the intention, I only connect with my spirit guides or spirit team. And then you can say to them, please say to me, blue. Where do you feel that in your body? I know we're talking about hearing energy, but remember, your intuition is an amalgamation of so much. It's not just linear. I see, I hear, I sense, I know energy. It is your beautiful combination of all those things. So even though they are saying blue to you, how do you feel that? How do you hear it? How do you sense it? And of course, you can do that with any term, right? So, okay. So that is how you pause and start to feel into, again, make sure you're just connected to your intuition. I am, you guys, I teach this stuff. I practice this stuff constantly throughout my day. It doesn't matter if I'm at a concert, at a family gathering, on a date. It doesn't matter. In mid-conversation with someone, I will connect with energy, run energy, talk to my guides, say, Spirit, WTF, help me out here. All the things, right? I practice this stuff all the time. And it is a practice. Unfortunately, it's not just an on-off switch. Oh, I need to get over that, I think. So really keep in mind that the more you practice this and the more intentional you are, the more it comes through for you. And that's when you develop your slang, like I mentioned in that last episode. You will eventually develop a shorthand with your intuition. And it's a really cool thing. For me, when it used to take me minutes to set up for a client session. And I've been doing them for, I don't even know how many years now. And now I can do it I'm like moving my hand here swiftly. It's like a large movement, right? And while I'm on this topic, I will say that there are times where I need to restate my intention with anything. Could be anything. Could be, could be a client session. Could be just my life. Could be one-on-one with someone. Could be anything. It is helpful to reinstate intentions. It does make them stronger and stronger. And that's why I continue to restate the intention that I only connect with my intuition. I say that every single day. I mean, it's, when people I know, we love labels and what are you? And, I'm a human that chooses the light. I choose to connect consciously to my light, to my intuition, to spirit, just to source, basically. I just choose source. When in doubt, I just, hello, source. And that's what keeps things really crystal clear. And they will for you too. And remember, we think about that fishing rod. And your intention, that rod is only going to what your intention is. It is not deviating. So for the last part of this episode, I'm going to share with you one other tool that's going to help you build trust with your intuition. And that is spontaneous creativity. And here's what I mean. You think about as a kid, you knew naturally how to play. You colored outside the lines. You ran to areas you weren't supposed to run to. You basically played the way that felt good for you. And then, of course, we are conditioned through society, through maybe a religion, through school, on how we are supposed to act, be, perform. And so as adults, we have no space to let ourselves explore, go to our edges, push our boundaries. I mean, when do you do that ever? Think about when was the last time you spent 5 minutes just free flowing with your life? Probably hasn't happened in a hot minute, and that's okay. So what this means is, no, you do not have to get out a craft project, but think about something you can do that is going to let you just truly be and let your energy be kind of wild. I'm going to give you an example. Say you can be by yourself for a couple of minutes and you turn on one of your favorite songs and you dance and move as feels good for you. Now, I know judgment's going to come in. That's okay. Your job is to continue to feel into how good it feels for you just to move. Just move. Who cares if your left arm looks like it might be falling off? It's okay. Just move your body. Another thing you can do is just write, just free write. Write whatever the heck you want to write about. Write a poem. Write a poem that starts with, 15 letters or 15 words and ends with 2. Who cares? Who cares? Just write what comes out for you. Another thing I like to do is I have a blank piece of paper and I will just draw. And sometimes I'll draw and I'll be like 2 birds at the top left, and then it'll be a scribble, and then it'll be a flower over here. And sometimes I paint and I don't worry about the outcome, but I just go. So the whole idea is that you have to, number one, give yourself space to do this, even if it's 5 minutes. The guides are even saying for some of you, if you have kids or loved ones who are kind of adjusting to this lifestyle of yours, right? This lifestyle of self-exploration and, they just said divination. Did I say that correctly? Which means your alignment with your true one, which is love, which is source. And they say anything that gives you freedom for as long as possible, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, where there is no outcome. It is just freedom for you to do whatever you want. They're saying another good place to start is actually by stretching without a plan. They say, what if you just stretched in ways that felt really good? Wow. That sounds easy enough, right? So what happens is you actually learn to trust yourself. You learn to feel good, feel safe in the chaos. And it's really not chaos. It's you simply expressing yourself. And this is something I've been practicing myself, and I feel my energy open up and expand. And there's many different places you can do this, okay? Say you're going to run an errand. And you're like, okay, everyone, I'm going to be back in 20 minutes. I'm going to go run this errand. And then you take with you your pen and paper, and before you hop into the store for that toilet paper everybody needs, you sit down in your car and you write, or you do that, you make art, non-art, right? Non-conforming art with no end game in mind on that paper. That is you trusting yourself again. It's that safety in the chaos. And with our intuition and with energy, there's so much unknown. I know I've touched on this. I haven't gotten too far into it yet, but one of the big things that's happening on Earth is how much you are going to be bringing your special energy into this world. You're already doing it. So how do we trust it? How do you trust that what's coming forward is right? Well, the guides are popping in. They're like, well, because it feels good. Of course. And also, you're going to think, well, this beautiful energy is coming through. What is it? Is it Reiki? Is it breathwork? Is it shamanism? Is it, what's its label? It's not going to have a label. It's your energy. So as you get comfortable expressing yourself in this way that is very non-linear, you're going to start to feel safer and more comfortable with the creative ways energy comes through for you. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here today. I would love to hear how you hear energy, how you sense tones. If you go through any of the practices today, what comes up for you? And remember, you already are the light. You already are amazing. And I am so grateful you are bringing more of you into this world.